Sorry about that. I my PC crashed, unfortunately, but I will be right back. I need to go do something real quick, but we'll be right back with this. Hopefully, actually no. Hang on. I need to check my PC crashed, so I need to check and see if this is still working and see if it's like, well, not gonna be in the wrong place. Because if it's in the wrong place, I might have to, like, unfortunately, just... I don't want to go through a whole bunch of stuff again. That's annoying. Let me see. Where are we? Hopefully the autosave is good, though. Yeah, it would be nice. Okay, here we are. We're good, we're good. You gotta let us have a rabbit and pork here, Governor. We got things to say. I beg your pardon? What do you who do you think you are? Alright. I'll be right back. Just like a minute or two. So I'll be right back. See you soon. Sorry about that. Took longer than expected, but we're good. All right. So I'm pretty sure this is the last part anyway. So I'm sure we're gonna be finishing this up relatively soon. Let's see. All right. Name's Nash Skulkin. Occupation is professional baddie. Name's Rico Skulkin, but we ain't baddies enough to sell out our motherland. So... is your brother villain up on the jury stand? That's right. We're what they call... the Three Skulkin Brothers. Oh my god. Bad timing, fellas. Very bad timing. God damn it. Those freaking dudes, man. Alright, Your communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. Some low-caste brickmaker negotiated with McGilded anyway, was it not? I'm no relation to the man. Look, all we done is break into the Gav another night like we was told to do. And we know there was those dodgy government secrets involved, and we didn't have touched it. Oh boy. Oh boy. Hang on, I'm gonna have to actually mess with this. There. Mr. Skulkin. One Mr. will do, Governor. What's up? Do I take it that you now admit to the crime? That on the night in question, you did indeed gain entry to the premises illegally. And moreover, you did so as party of 3 in collaboration with Mr. Graydon here. We did, Gov. We did. Of course they... Quiet it down, please. What say you do that to... What say you to that, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these two ruffians are referring to. You little rotter. Getting us all mixed up in this monkey business. You never said something about no government secrets. It was supposed to be a straight up job. What a big geezer's shop it was, eh? Poor old bloke didn't have to die, did he? Oh. I'd say their testimony is pretty reliable now. Nice to know who your friends are. Whatever these men say, I deny the accusations. Indeed. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this little music box to become so significant in the proceedings. However, as it is, I will admit it into the court record as evidence. Now...
Hold it!
Are you sure? Are you sure? So is this newspaper headline accurate? Government communications are being intercepted. How can I possibly know? You clearly could. Any important government communications are handled by high-level officers, by specialists. General members of staff in the station where I work would never be entrusted with sensitive information. Oh no, stop. Must say something, stop. Let me guess. Turn number 5. We regular communication stations, however, aren't as low as you're being led to believe. A team of us are responsible for setting up and testing the telegraphs used by the Ministry. And Mr. Graydon is the team leader. Oops. Whoops. That's fascinating. Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop. So you need access to the equipment used for these confidential communications, Mr. Graydon. Well, what of it? Transmissions are always made behind closed doors, so they can't be heard. In any case, all messages are sent in ciphered. Normal employees couldn't possibly understand them. Oh no, stop, must say something, stop. Mr. Graydon regularly attends meetings with Ministry technicians and the Ministry communications team. He assists them in ensuring that there are no errors in important internal communications. And he's received the top prize at Cipher Cracking Convention 5 years in a row now. That's fascinating. It's almost like he's being incriminated more. Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop. Well, your idol would appreciate it if you keep your mouth shut. She would really pick her idols more carefully. Yeah. I'll tell you, this lawyer's accusations are completely unfounded. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Hold it!
Oh no, you're being pretty sus. You're being pretty sus right now. To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent on listening to that music box for even a few seconds. Of course, of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. Ouch, he looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance. Ha ha ha. I would be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir. A lesson? Here in court? Morse code is a continuous series of 2 distinct tones. Tones, you say? Short dot and a long dash, but combining those in different ways you can construct letters. I see. For example, this is A. Understandable. When you listen to the sound produced by this music, you can only hear one tone, don't you? But it sounds so similar, the rhythm of it is the same in everything. There is no discernible meaning to this apparently random sequence of sounds. So your assertion is fundamentally flawed. This is not Morse code. Then what code is it? Really, you shouldn't be so surprised. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying your subject matter before casting aspirations in future. Stop. Nothing to say, but stop. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Iris? I mean, if the government secrets were somehow being leaked using the music box, so many other things would slot into place so nicely. Could there still be something I haven't considered? Would it really be impossible to use the speech box to somehow play back Morse code? Let's try it. Fuck it. We got nothing to lose at this point. There's still very possibly that this music box was instrumental in leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least.
Objection!
Does it please you in some way, my Nipponese friend, to repeat the same line of argument in ad infinitum? It's already been established that to be Morse code, 2 tones are required. Dots and dashes. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Then what? Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis put forward. You'd better present your idea at once, Counsel. How do you propose that this music box, which appears to have produced only a single tone, could have been used to decipher secret messages into Morse code? What's this? Oh. What is it, Bruno? I've just noticed something about this music box. Looks like the bottom of it opens as well. Ah, you're right. Come on then, what are you waiting for? Let's open it. Alright then, here goes. Oh, it's another one. Look at that, there's another movement on the other side. So does that mean you can set another disc to play back on this side? Yes, I think so, and it looks like the 2 movements are linked together. They're linked? So if you had 2 discs, they would play back at the same time. Morse code! Morse code! Ayy!
Got it!
Good gracious, what am I looking at here? Another movement on the other side of the music box? What? That actually brings up... I remember specifically something that Grayson said near the beginning of this case. He said there was another disc. Specifically, another disc. Which makes this make a lot more sense. Which means there's a missing disc out there that is the other half of this sequence. The other half of this message. In other words, you can put 2 discs in this music box. And the sounds of both will play back at the same time. Good heavens. As the court has heard, Morse code comprises of 2 tones, a short dot and a long dash. With a second disc in place, this music box could be used to generate Morse code and convey a message. This is beyond a joke. I'm sorry. This poor excuse for a lawyer is absolutely no evidence to support his claims. Though, of course, if my learned friend were able to present the court with the second disc, that may be another matter. Well, Well, no, unfortunately, we don't have that right now. I can't at the moment. And I may remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with McGilded 2 months ago, striking a deal over the disc or discs. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly, I had nothing to do whatsoever to do with it. Though it has holes, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue. The link between Graydon and the victim of Omnibus must be there somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. Oh dear, looks like you need to give your argument more strength, Bruno. You radiate your testimony if you please, Mr. Graydon. If I must, though I maintain exactly what I did at the start of this pointless cross-examination. I don't know, dude. Look, all we did is break into the cafe on the other night. I'll press this one. Like Mr. Graydon told you to do so, you mean? That's it, yeah? Who else, eh? Silly me. He thought he was popping over the Natter, but the runner had a dodgy job for us. Eh, Ash? Let me stop you right there, Mr. Skulkin. After all them years, you say? You mean to tell me that Mr. Graydon is an acquaintance of yours? You're the sociable kind of baddies, you know. Let's say Graydon's in old China. What do you got to say there, buddy? Something wrong, Mr. Skulkin. Eh? No, the other Mr. Skulkin. What? Who? Me? When your brother was testifying just now, he said something that seemed to cause you to react. Oh, I was remembering just the old days, that's all. We used to have a right old laugh together when way back when. Together with Mr. Graydon, you mean? Yeah, with Vash. I mean, look at him now and his fancy whistle and flute, and you wouldn't Adam and Eve it. And when we was younger, he was from the poor part of town, just like us. Oh ho ho! Does that mean he's not? Does that mean he's an immigrant? Who was always a leery one? He had the brains, he had the savvy. Always coming with smart ideas like what would never have done through our heads. Poor blimey, ain't that the truth? Remember Milverton and Skeleton Milk Run? That was a corker, eh? Save it until after the trial. Your reminiscing has no place in this courtroom. And neither does your fruit. Oi, the geezer asked us a question, didn't he? And we was answering. Yeah, we didn't do nothing wrong. Nevertheless, the court is not prepared to accompany you on your trip down memory lane. Counsel, can we turn our attention back to the testimony, please? I don't know, could that sentimental story be relevant somehow? Yes. Yes! My lord? Yes, counsel? The brother's last sentimental statement could hold vital information relating to this case. Very well, counsel. I will permit the brothers to supplement their testimony with that detail. Briefly, I hasten to add. Say no more, Skulkin's never skulkin'.
Hold it!
I'm sure we're gonna regret asking, but what exactly was that? Some kind of business? Just a little scheme we had going back when we was youngsters. A bit of fun, really. Delivering fresh milk to the locals, that's what it was all about. That sounds alarmingly legitimate. There must have been a catch. Well, since we're here, I should have some fun on what? The business name. So this business was just a bit of fun, you say? It was just yourselves and Mr. Graydon involved? Yeah, that's it. Milverton and Skelton's Milk Run, was it? Yep, that's it. And where did the Milverton part come from? Oh, right. I thought the Clever Claws like you'd have worked that one out. Enough of this.
Objection.
Let me guess. You don't accept anything these two witnesses are saying. Yeah, that's pretty sus, man. Pretty freaking sus. Tell me, why is it that it was only at the mention of the name Milverton that you decided to interject? Because well... It weren't the Apples of Ohms that one came from. Yeah, it's the old man struggling for money so much as the wife walked out on him. She took the name Graydon then, see? But Ash will always be Milverton to us. So that used to be your surname, did it? Of course not, this all buckum. I've been a Graydon since I was born. You really think you can rely on the testimony of these two thieves? Your communications authorities are attached to the Silver Service. As such, your personal details will have to be thoroughly checked at the time of your appointment. It would be a very simple matter indeed to something of those records, Mr. Graydon. Would it appear that Mr. and Mrs. Skelton has been reliable? For once. You were born Ashley Milverton, then. Is that correct? Very well, yes. So Ashley Graydon was actually Ashley Milverton. And our mission could change things. It could turn out to be extremely important. I think you're hiding more than that, bub. All of a sudden, we seem to be up on our necks in a serious matter of national security. Although, all this talk about interception of secret governmental message is just conjecture at this stage. It would explain a number of those things, though, wouldn't it? Negotiation Jenny overheard on the omnibus 2 months ago and the break-in at Windy Banks? Well, the trouble is, it wasn't Mr. Graydon in the omnibus, but Mr. Begilded. No, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker who was so horribly murdered. If only there was some link between the two men somehow. I know, but Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. I wonder if the key to making us headway with the crossing Asian here could be those two brothers. Well, clearly it is. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with Begilded anyway, was it not? I have no relation to the man. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? You see this? His name is Mason Milverton. I think he's your father.
Objection.
I think he's your father, dude. Mr. Ashley Milverton. Tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court? Because I haven't gone by that name for years. It means nothing to me. Are you sure? No, I don't think that's a real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name. Explain yourself, please, counsel. I have here the notes from the omnibus case, my lord. As we all know, the victim, a man who we now understand have been negotiating with Miss Gilden. Yes, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker? That's right. Only Mason wasn't his surname at all. It was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton. Milverton? Do you mean to say Saints alive? Mr. Ashley Milverton. Is not the case. Is it not the case that the brickmaker, Mr. Mason Milverton, was your father? I don't... As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have to be thoroughly checked when you join the Silver Service. And it really would take no time at all for the court to summate those records. Truth is, you have been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it to McGilden in collaboration with your father. Hee 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 hee. Gotcha. No one frickin' spins like that when they've been caught. Well, no one spins like that so erratically if they've been caught. Well, if they've been innocent. Like, if he was innocent, he wouldn't frickin' do that. He's frickin' gasping and going like, oh, why would you find out? Ah. All come together to reveal the truth. The truth, you say? That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in illegal dealings with Magnus McGilded. By dint of this music box, you mean, Counsel? Yes, stealing information being sent in secret government communications and selling it on to McGilded. Mr. Graydon concocted this elaborate scheme of using 2 music boxes to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands. And a very effective one. I shouldn't have given this scheme any credence whatsoever. But the deal with McGilded went sour, and the brickmaker met his end. Yes, but before he was arrested, McGilded managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned the situation, you appeared at Windybank 2 days ago, in an attempt to recover the 2 articles McGilded had placed in pawn there. But that attempt failed. One of the discs was seized by the police, and the other you never found. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Skulkin brothers and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the 2nd disc. Are you suggesting the 2nd disc was inside the music box? Eh? We never knew nothing about that. On that night, that Mr. Windybank was killed. The intruder of the pawnbrokery touched one item, and one item alone. The music box. As rather ingeniously demonstrated using the 2 prints from the security camera, indeed. So, the question that naturally begs answering is this. Why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained the 2nd disc, which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny all that this actually began on that fateful night 2 months ago? I refuse to accept any of this nonsense. Liar. Sir, there appears to be blood seeping through the sleeve of your jacket. The wound opened. I got proof now that you were there 2 nights ago. We know that 3 shots were fired at the scene of the crime in Winnie Pink's pawnbrokery. Gotcha now. One took the life of the pawnbroker himself. One struck the pouch around Mr. Shulman's waist. And the final bullet struck the calendar on the wall of the shop, having first pierced the arm of one of the intruders. Mr. Graydon. You know what? That makes me think. Did Mr. Windybank fire on Graydon? Did he fire on Graydon in an attempt to injure him? And then he tried to run away when he was about to be shot. Something to that effect. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure we'll find out soon anyway. He's got you now, me old China. Time to call it quits and croak, I reckon. They know. Don't acknowledge my presence here under any circumstances whatsoever. Those were my terms, remember? And I paid you handsomely to comply. Clearly I was a fool to think I could trust some common backslum thieves. Fine, I admit it. I was there when he makes that night. I paid this pair 10 guineas to accompany me. And as you noticed, I sustained an injury in the course of my adventures. But that is all. I admit to nothing more. Sleeping government secrets. Negotiating with Mr. McGilded. As God is my witness, I'm sure I recall nothing of the sort. He's not gonna go down with a fight until I show hard evidence, I suppose. Nevertheless, the defense has now established a crucial fact. Which is... well, we know that 1 bullet was fired from each of the 2 firearms we have in evidence. That bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun hit the pouch around Mr. Shulman's waist. And the bullet from Mr. Windymake's gun clearly must have been the one that caught Mr. Graydon on the arm. Yep, that's what I was thinking. Indeed it must. You can rule out the possibility that the man shot himself. And leads us only to one conclusion. Mr. Windybake was shot by a 3rd gun. Mr. Graydon's gun. Which can only have been fired by the 3rd intruder. Goodness. That's right, Mr. Graydon. Ugh. The only person who could have possibly shot Mr. Windybake that night is you.
Hold it!
Oh boy. You little upstart. You made a grave mistake when you summoned me here. What? What's that supposed to mean? Yes, as you rightly say, I was there at the pawnbrokers. I did my best to hide the fact, naturally. I had no intention to ruin the distinguished career I'd built so much for myself at the communications station. But did the thought ever never cross your mind? Did you ever consider the possibility? What do you mean? What thought? What possibility? The possibility that I was there at the scene. I may have witnessed the crucial moment. Are you sure you did? Or are you just trying to lengthen this freaking trial to make it seem like you weren't the freaking killer? You were the killer. Don't freaking lie to me. This makes me a key witness in this case, and I have my hands firmly around the neck of your client. What? Are you suggesting? I saw it all. I saw the very moment that the pickpocket girl pointed the gun at the poor defense pawnbroker and shot him. Liar. Dude, you literally have been lying to us this entire time. Do you expect me to frickin' believe your bullshit? We seem to be finally entering the last act of this theatrical trial. Mr. Graydon. Yes? I trust you are fully aware of the implications here. It is shown that your claim is false. You will have incriminated yourself as the killer. Oh, I understand fully. And I must ask you to give your formal testimony once more. You will explain to court precisely what you saw at the moment the defendant allegedly shot the victim. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. Oh, you're going down, boy. You're going down. While these ruffians were jostling with that broker, I was still near the entrance of the shop. When Winnipeg threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shut himself in the storeroom. I could see him through the peephole in the door, though. The accused in the black coat shot the man in the black, and he was trying to flee to safety. I saw the blood splatter all over that wretched girl. And she tossed the gun out of the peephole, so I picked it up and made my escape. That sounds so fucking fake. Like, I'm not even gonna... I can't even say how fake that sounds. That sounds so freaking made up on the spot. That sounds so made up on the spot, it's hilarious. You claim, sir, under oath, to have clearly seen the defendant pulling the trigger. You couldn't have? Like, hang on. If she were to fire on him, she would be like up against the wall. There is no freaking way he could have saw her shoot the guy in the back. She would have been behind the wall. No freaking way. Like, God. Do you take me for a freaking idiot? It wasn't my intention to testify in this way. But neither is it my intention to be found guilty of a murder I didn't commit. As you see, my hand has been forced. I tell the truth now as an act of self-preservation. No! Stop frickin' lying, boy! Stop lying to my damn face. Truth? Till now, the prosecution was completely unaware of these details. Yes, well, sorry about that. Having shot me in the arm, the pawnbroker was then shot in the back by the accused. Ooh, excuse me. And as I said, she was showered in the blood. You say the blood splattered over the accused's coat? Are you sure on that point? Oh my god. Sorry, Grayson, but you're wrong again. That blood is your father's blood. Oh yes, quite sure. All over the black overcoat that pickpocket girl was wearing at the time. Really? If her coat could somehow be shown to harbor vestiges of blood, that would be conclusive evidence here. I mean, you're still wrong. That's her father's blood. That's your frickin' father's blood. Liar. Such an investigation is entirely possible, my lord. What? Only very recently, a German scientist has developed a technique to identify human blood. So here's the true science, not some amateurish detective's dubious foray into the world of chemistry. There's nothing dubious about Hurley's work. His ideas are all sound. Ideas are no use to us here. In science, as in law, theories must be proven before they stand. In Germany, the technique has already been employed in the courtroom as the basis of evidence. Sodium yarn is a small quantity of the chemical reagent used with your lordship's permission. We could shatter all vestiges of doubt within minutes. Doesn't look good, Runo. Why not? Well, we know, don't we, that there's blood all over the front of Ginny's coat. If they tested with her chemicals... Oh, help, you're right. I was forgetting what happened yesterday. Don't move, Ginny, I'm going to shoot. Yeah, but we know whose blood that is. It's not Mr. Winnie makes blood. That scene is from 2 months ago. That's Mr. Mason's blood from when he was stabbed by McGilded, who was wearing the coat at the time. My lord, the defense objects to the test proposed by the prosecution. Overruled. Or Van Zeeks make it so at once. With pleasure, my lord. When we await the results, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Once I find that blood on the overcoat, Jean will be... Counsel? Yes, my lord. Your cross-examination. Of course, my lord. Seems to go well. If I don't manage to uncover some decisive evidence or really compelling clue now, I have a very bad feeling about the outcome of this trial. Alright. Hmm.
Hold it!
I guess all I have to do is press at the moment. At least that's what I think. So I'm gonna make emerge from the storeroom, I believe? Ringo and Nash were scouring the counter when he suddenly appeared and flew at them. He already had the revolver in his hand. Unfortunately, I wasn't too close. I've never been so scared in all my life. Yeah, we're just your regular mild-mannered burglars, that's all. We don't like violence. Dude. Says the pair who carry a gun. What do you mean when you say you were near the entrance to the shop? I was in the doorway, running my eyes over the shelves of forfeited items. Looking for the music box, of course. The broker for the Nash went for the Nash in the first place. Then Ringo joined in, making it 2 against 1, so I assumed they could handle the situation. But I was wrong. Was trying to help me, little bruv. The old geezer chugged me out over the bloomin' counter. So I pulled me gun out on this old fella, and then soon made him scarper. Are you sitting up on the poor defenseless pawnbroker together? Shame on you. Sorry, Gov. When we made through Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. You mean that's the moment you were shot? Yes. Though I didn't immediately realize what had happened, of course. He thrust to the floor from the counter as the 3 men were brawling. It was exactly that moment that had happened, so I didn't hear the gunshot. And the bullet went on strike the calendar in the wall behind you? So it would appear. When I looked at my arm, I saw it was bleeding badly. So I wrapped my handkerchief around it. Seeing as I couldn't explain what had happened to a doctor, I had no choice but to wait for it to heal. I didn't imagine it would still be bleeding 2 days later. Did Mr. Winnibig intend to shoot you, do you think? Well now, I don't imagine he even noticed I was there, to be honest. Perhaps the gun went off accidentally. Anyway, it didn't quite strike home. Well, I pulled on my gun on him and I tried to shove me out of the way. And then he scarpered through that door out back. At which point, what did you do?
Hold it!
You mean you chased after him? I don't recall the reason why, but I ran after him to the back of the shop. And what about this peephole on the door you mentioned? Well, unsurprisingly, the storeroom door is a solid job, made of stout wood. There's a small opening in and above head height that lets you see what's in there from the outside. Actually, I should know that, shouldn't I? Yes. I looked through it myself that night. You know about you burgling brothers? Did you see what went on through this people as well? Not likely, Gov. Didn't see nothing of the sort, Gov. I doubt these two baboons were even aware of the people's existence. So the Scullion brothers were there, but I didn't see the killing Mr. Winnibig take place. Inside the storeroom, I could see the broker and that young girl standing there. Defendant? Yes, though neither of them noticed that I was looking. The girl raised her gun and pointed it straight at the man. And then, what did you see next?
Hold it!
Yes, when the crime was discovered, the defendant was found with a gun in her hand. That was Mr. Winnibig's gun, from which only a single bullet had been fired. And as we've already established, Mr. Graydon, that bullet was fired at you. Ah, but no. It wasn't the broker's gun that the pickpocket girl had when I saw her. Yes, the bullet from Winniebake's gun grazed my arm. And yes, the Skulkin's gun grounded a detective. But this was another gun entirely, a third gun. The broker's gun was not the murder weapon, so clearly there had to be a third firearm involved. In other words, the accused must have had her own gun with her at the time.
Objection.
No? No. But no other gun was found at the scene. Calm yourself, counsel. Sorry? You must consider the events in order. At first I saw the broker and the girl glaring at each other, but then all of a sudden, the broker turned to run. And it was at the moment that the little gutter rat shot him in the back. A chilling image, I must say. Oh my god. This dude. I saw the blood splatter all over the wretched girl. Hang on, I need to go back.
Hold it.
Press this one. All over her? Yes. Through the people, I saw it clearly. Of course, the stains are invisible now, what with the coat being such a dark color. But I assure you, that garment is solely with the victim's blood. Well, it's solely with the blood, that's for sure. It's not Mr. Winniemake's blood, is it? No, that's right. It's Mr. Mason Milverton's blood from when McGill had stabbed him 2 months ago. It's so annoying. Only except Hurley's chemical analysis we could prove that. But they won't. So unfortunately, we can't use it as evidence to support our case. Bother.
Hold it.
Did I hear you correctly? So you threw the gun out of the room? That's right. As her broker fell to the floor, she started walking over. Over where exactly? In the direction of the storeroom door, to where I was watching. Of course, I quickly retreated, and then the girl dropped the gun through the people onto the floor on my side of the door. Well, why on earth would she do such a thing? Couldn't tell you. Perhaps she was hoping to distance herself from the murder weapon. Without thinking, I went and picked it up. I suppose I was right about just leaving it there. In case any more tragedies took place. So it was you, in fact, who took the third gun from the scene of the crime? Yes, it was yours truly. I left the clear up to my lackeys and left. Clear up? You made a bit of a mess around the counter, so Mr. Whistle and Flute here told us to tidy up. He thinks he's our bloomin' mum sometimes. Well, it was painful enough, by God. Ugh. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbroking that night, was it by chance with a second disc in your jacket pocket?
You little toe rag.
Oh! You're like a bull at the gate, aren't you? Oh! What is happening here? What is happening? Gregson, please!
Excuse me.
Gentlemen. Uh, uh, uh. Something wrong, Sunshine? That should be my line. Do you realize you were just finally shaking Mr. Skulkin? Yeah, he was. That's very odd, even for him. Blimey, this Steve's a bit of a hooligan, ain't he? What was going on just now? You saw me grab me with me whistle. Why the blazes, he said, didn't you mention the third one when we got down the station? Why didn't you? 'Cause you didn't know nothing about it. Not flinging people in the door. Sorry about that. I can be pros to losing my rag sometimes. Not hurt, are you? Or blimey. See the way he's looking at me? I'm telling you, this deed's giving me the willies. Spectre doesn't normally get quite as worked up as that. Wouldn't normally grab someone. No, that wasn't like Rexy at all. He's normally all sweetness and light, no matter what I say to him. Yes, well, I think he might be a special case, Iris. Well, anyway, I was definitely out of character. Yeah, odd. Very odd. My lord? Requesting your lordship's permission to interrupt the cross-examination. Explain yourself, officer. I have the results of the test that was ordered earlier, my lord. Ah, the blood on the accused overcoat. Thank you, officer. Very well. The cross-examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objection, counsel? No, my lord. Well, there you have it. The report, please, Inspector. Yes, sir. Traces of human blood were found on the overcoat of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. From the extended stains, it would appear that they were the result of splattering following a gunshot wound. End of report. Goodness me. I mean, you're wrong. Those stains are freaking old. See? What did I tell you?
Objection.
No, the blood on the coat is not Mr. Winniebanks. What on earth makes you say that, counsel? The coat originally belonged to Magnus McGilded. Just before his coat was deposited at Winniebanks, McGilded had been fatally stabbed Mr. Mason Milverton. So the blood on that overcoat is the blood of the brickmaker from the omnibus case.
Objection.
Well, the dead cannot speak. Isn't that right, my Nipponese friend? Sorry? 2 months ago in this very courtroom, did you not argue fervently for McGilded's innocence? And yet now that man is dead, you brand him as a murderer? Your conduct shatters any shred of respect you may have earned for yourself in this country. But that was... I call it a bally disgrace. Treachery, that's what it is. How to determine whether the blood on that coat is 2 months old or not? Even a stereoscope couldn't even help the answer to that problem pop out. It can't be done. But... We use... Sholmes is a detective, not a chemist. Would you put such faith in a chemical formula devised by me, for example, when I'm a medications officer? I yelled a little brusky to starving boy, and he ran away crying. Herlock Sholmes is barely more than a figment of the public's imagination. His name carries no weight in this courtroom. No weight at all. How could you say that? Victory is sweet indeed. This proves that my testimony is the whole truth from start to finish. How do you arrive at such a conclusion, sir? As the witness said, the accused's coat was spattered with the blood of the victim. The only way Mr. Vaden could have possibly have known that fact is if he saw it happen. In other words, his testimony is solid, and the conclusion is singular. It was the accused who shot the victim in this case. That is the whole truth. Lies. My lord. A long battle, this one. This old warhorse has something to say now, if you please. Mr. Foreman? As of this moment, sir, the squadron has reached its final decision. Ready, men? All for one now. Sir.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Oh, boy. Well, it appears the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached a unanimous verdict. The defense has consistently failed to unpick this witness's testimony. Here's to any attempt you make at unpicking the jurors' decisions being equally unsuccessful. Sorry, but, my cross-examination is not done. The judge only temporarily suspended it, so, I can technically continue it. Hello? Believe it, after I've come this far. How is this all unraveling on me so fast? How very distressing to be held in such low esteem. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Officer? For the report now, that would be all, thank you. It occurs to me with some regularity, Mr. Naruhodo, that scientific truths are determined not by science, but none other than the human mind. I know that voice. Am I going mad? Ah! Wild! Mr. Sholmes! What is the meaning of this? Wild. What business do you have here, detective? Last I heard, you were recuperating in hospital. As well I should be, had I not been set upon an errand. What errand? Hurley, it's really you. You're awake at last. Yes, good day, Iris. I appear to be rather late to rise. My apologies. Now, my lord, if you will humor me. In what manner, sir? I have something of great importance I wish to give to the young lawyer over there. I need no more than 5 minutes. Would you be so kind to spare us some time? What say you to this, Lord Van Zeeks? This trial has taken many hours of the court's time, Having spent so long already. Exactly, having spent so long already, we don't want to go and waste no more precious time. As I was saying, having spent so long already, it would be seem cherish the dying defense a mere 5 minutes. Very well then, Council. You have 5 minutes. My dear fellow, I apologize for my tardy arrival. Sholmes, are you alright now? You're alright. I'm all wrong. Sorry? I've only just managed to summon the strength to stand, man. I have to judge for 5 minutes. But I fear even that may prove too much for me. Pray forgive me should I pass out. Let's make the discussion as short as possible. Hurley, this place is full of idiots. None of them can see how wonderful your chemical blood analysis is. Ah, well. That concussion of mine was really just a bit of sport to assist me in my investigations. I never took the trouble to find it for appraisal by the scientific community. An oversight on my part. Right. Modesty? Surely not. But enough of that. I'm here to give you this, my dear fellow. What's that? Lavender Furoshi wrapping? A leaving present from Miss Susato. From Miss Susato? If possible, matters were to be settled without me giving you this. Those were on your instructions when you asked me to do her this favor. I don't understand. Miss Susato foresaw today's events, I believe. She knew that the culprit would attempt to escape justice by means both devious and underhand. And that you, Mr. Naruto, fighting fairly as you are, won't you do, would find yourself in considerable peril. In that very moment of crisis, you were to be given this small parcel. Those were the dear lady's instructions. A leaving present from Susato-san. Never could it be. What is this? Oh! It's the machine I made. Ah. Look, I use this. It's my latest invention. What is that? I call it the cat flap-o-mat. It can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like a Waggy in seconds. Yeah, the door maker. What's Susie up to? Miss Susato muttered the following words before she left. I'm a failure. I don't deserve to be a judicial assistant. What? Didn't she say something like that? You really are the best judicial assistant in the world. Well, that's extremely flattering. But I'm sorry to say that I've been a complete failure. Whatever does she mean by that, Mr. Sholmes? That night, when you left Winniebags in pursuit of the thieves, Mr. Sudo made use of this contraption for a certain purpose. That is your answer, dear fellow. Not at all cryptic, then. Sudo-san used his cat flap-o-mat that night, but why? To help us? Your 5 minutes is over. we're out of time already? I'm grateful to you for affording us that brief recess, Mr. Reaper. I need no thanks, Detective. After all, that the die is cast. Is it really? The jurors are unanimous in their leanings. No doubt my learned friend will consider a summation examination. But any attempt to alter the verdict now would be utterly futile. I wonder... Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? The rest is down to you, dear fellow. What is your plan? The rest is down to me? I need to be careful here. If I make a wrong move, the trial will end badly. My lord, defense requests further cross-examination. Further cross-examination.
Objection.
The jurors have spoken. Protocol dictates that you may not cross-examine a new witness now.
Objection.
My cross-examination was temporarily suspended. This is not asking for the cross-examination of a new witness. Rather to continue one with an existing witness. What? It would appear that a rather important detail has escaped your attention, Mr. Reaper. My lord? Requesting your lordship permission to interrupt any cross-examination. He's the one who did that. He helped me. That dog. Thank you, officer. Very well. The cross-examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objection, counsel. No, my lord. So nobody can say anything then. We're gonna resume his cross-examination on Mr. Graydon. The court is obliged to allow it. This is absurd. Gotcha. I would remind those present that this is my courtroom. I concur that the defense is entirely within its right to request strict continuation of the cross-examination. However, I will not permit an unready protraction of these proceedings. Therefore, I have decided to afford the defense one final opportunity in concluding the cross-examination. Counsel, you must choose but one statement from the witness's testimony, and but one piece of evidence to present in support of your argument against it. A single chance to present evidence? If following that the situation remains unchanged, I shall move to adjudication. Is that clear, counsels? You will not press the witness any further. My lord? Yes, my lord. A single statement and a single piece of evidence. Most generous. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, it's high time I fell in a dead faint. I leave this in your capable hands. Mr. Sholmes! Sholmes. He'll be fine. He just needs rest. Stand is insocantly before the court in a state of such high fever. Either the man has extraordinary strength of mind or extremely lack of feeling. I imagine he's feeling very little now. Detective is sleeping soundly in one of the antechambers. Strike a man when he's down, why don't you? Well then, counsel, are you fully prepared? Yes. One statement, One piece of evidence. I won't let Mr. Sholmes down, or Iris. And I won't waste this final chance that Suzuto-san has given me. This is going to decide the entire outcome of the trial. Very well then. Under the terms I have outlined, you may resume your cross-examination. Let's see. Hmm.
Objection.
Whoop. What on earth that eccentric contraption, Council? Oh, it's my cat Flappomat, my lord. It makes a way for cats to get in and out of a room. It can cut through any door you can think of and make a new little door in the middle of it. That's right, my lord. It's a device for creating so-called cat flaps. Small doors for cats to come and go as they please without their owners having to open the main door. I'm sure we can all work that out for ourselves. Sure, buddy, sure. Ah. Well, that cub lover's kunru has no possible relevance to this case. Oh, really? Of course it doesn't, to start with. There was no cat flap in the pawnbroker's door. Not being a keeper of cats myself, I'm afraid I fail to see what this has to do with the matter at hand. Perhaps it would help if I described its function another way, then. This contraption is able to create a peephole in any door you can imagine in practically no time at all. I beg your pardon, a peephole, you say? 2 nights ago, we arrived at the scene only minutes after the murder of Mr. Winnemake had taken place. That's right, according to the paperwork at the yard, it was you, your Japanese assistant, and Sholmes. Yes, the 3 of us were there together. It's recently come to my attention that my assistant made use of this device at the time. Your assistant did what? There was a peephole in the storeroom door. I can attest to that. Because I looked through the peephole myself in order to see through the locked storeroom. This is ludicrous. What are you trying to say? Of course there was a peephole in the door. I said as much in my testimony. How else could I have witnessed the crime, for pity's sake? Yes, how could you? What? Counsel, kindly say what you mean. Alright, it's time. Time to strike the final blow. What I mean is this, my lord. My assistant made the people in the storeroom door until such time as she did. The door had no hole in it to look through. Gotcha.
Objection!
This is a farce. Are you really suggesting that the people in the door was... Yes, it was created only after the incident had taken place, by my judicial assistant using this device. Your assistant tampered with the crime scene whilst being fully aware of the gravity of her actions? This is a most serious act of vandalism. From which I humbly apologize, my lord. I was in the few minutes that I left the scene in order to pursue the Skulkin brothers and alert the police. Nevertheless, in light of this new information, it becomes apparent that Mr. Graydon's testimony is riddled with holes. Riddled with... Explain yourself, counsel. The majority of Mr. Graydon's testimony that appears to incriminate the defendant is based upon what he witnessed through the peephole in the storeroom door. Yes, that filthy girl shooting the man in the back. However, if at the time of the incident, that people did not yet exist in the door, there's no possible way that you could have seen what you claim to have seen. In short, your entire testimony is a pack of lies. Gotcha. Is there any credence in this revelation?
Objection!
If you look over here, you don't see a peephole over there, do you? Oh! It's right, it's right. She did do that. There's no peephole here now. But there's a peephole here. Hee hee hee! Susato, you frickin' dog. None whatsoever, as my learned friend must surely realize. Exactly, this is some sort of cheap trick designed to discredit me. I'm afraid not, sir. Of course it is. Do you seriously expect people to believe that plaything can cut through a solid wooden door? Oh yes, I designed it to be very powerful. It can cut through even the toughest of doors. It's absurd. I don't believe it for a second. Haha, I had a feeling you'd say that. What? Waggy, Cooey, time for dinner. Hee 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 hee. Got him. Well. Young lady, this is the Old Bailey. One does not make cat flaps in the oak paneling at the Old Bailey. I'm not done yet, don't worry. This doesn't mean that the people in the storeroom door at the Winniebanks was made by your machine. And there's no way you can prove that it was. Sorry, but I can. No, but it's easy. What? The cat flaps my cat flap grenades are all of a fixed size. And the dimensions of the peephole at Winniebanks are an exact match. Ugh. Hee old Silky's lost for words. Excellent work, Iris, thank you. And now it's my learned student's friend's turn to be lost for words, I feel. I believe your judicial assistant has already left the country for your Eastern Island home. Well, yes, that's true. Then you may have some difficulty in establishing all of the facts. For the sake of argument, let us assume the people has dimensions that are a perfect size for this contraption. In that case, when was the people cut? The prosecution demands proof of your answer. I have proof. What is the purpose of your line of inquiry, Lord Van Zeeks? It's very simple, my lord. The defense argues that the people was created after the incident using this device. But now that the perpetrator has returned to her native land, she cannot testify the fact there is no proof. Wrong. Ugh. And for as long as the defense remains unable to prove when the people was made, my learned friend claims amounts to nothing more than baseless accusation. Indeed, that is so, Lord Van Zeek's well, counsel. Don't give up, Runo. This is the time to create your own opening and force your way through. I don't know if I can do this, but I do know one thing. Susato-san is the great judicial assistant in the world. Very well. The Council of Defense will present evidence to support the claim made. Proof that the people in the door of the Windy Bank storeroom was created after the event and not before. Well, I have evidence. So... here you go.
Take that!
What are you? Printer from that detective's infernal cameras again? My judicial assistant, Miss Sudo Mikotova, is an extremely intelligent and capable woman, which is why I never had any cause to doubt. That she would have considered the scenario and made sure I had the necessary proof. Necessary proof is this photograph for print, Counsel? Yes. This print shows a scene in the shop moments after the defendant entered the premises. Agreed. And it also shows the accused mercilessly wielded a gun in the direction of the defense's broker. But more to the point, it pictures a storeroom door in the background. Let me see that print again. I don't believe it. It is really quite remarkable, the door to the storeroom. It's completely devoid of people of any description. Mr. Raiden? You couldn't possibly have witnessed the crime as you claim to have done. Because at the time it happened, there was no people on the door. Ugh. In other words, your testimony is a catalog of lies. What a breakdown. I am satisfied the defense has sustained its claim beyond all reasonable doubt. This witness testimony was entirely fallacious. It's not the only thing we know beyond all reasonable doubt. My learned friend's assistant's guilt can no longer be denied. The woman tampered with the crime scene. But more importantly... good lord, there's more Lord Van Zeeks? The defense may have established a reprehensible instance of perjury. That is no proof that this man is the victim's killer. Yes, that's right. What? I was there at the scene, it's true. And I was shot in the arm, it's true. But that's all. Yes, in fact, if you look at the circumstances, I am the victim here. Oh, please. Oh, boy. I don't believe this. But they're right. As it stands now, I don't have any definitive proof that he is the culprit. Still, he can't worm his way out of this now. Iris? You know what they say. There's no point locking the cat's door after the cat is bolted. Isn't that right, Bruno? Surly always says, one lie begets another. No, wait. That might have been a line I wrote for him in one of my stories. Well, no matter who said it first, you're right. Not only did you give false testimony to the court, but the lies you told make no sense. Make no sense? What do you mean by such a remark? What you said in your testimony reveals that you know something you shouldn't have known. In other words, there's a fundamental inconsistency in your statements. What?
Objection!
This is provocative talk, Counsel. When you enlighten the court, explain this alleged inconsistency. Iris is right. One lie begets another. Inconsistency is revealed by the lies in the witnesses' statements. They show that Mr. Gradient had knowledge of something he shouldn't have known anything about, namely, the peephole. The point is not that you lied in your testimony, Mr. Graydon. It's the nature of the lie you concocted that is so revealing. You're not making any sense. Then let me ask you a simple question. How is it, Mr. Graydon, that you knew of the existence of the people in the storeroom door? What? Well, obviously, Has the cat got your tongue, witness? The people in the door was made after the incident occurred. And once I returned to the shop having failed to catch the two burglars, Scotland Yard's investigators arrived immediately. Since that time, the police have been at Windy Base constantly, carrying out their investigation. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Well, yes, of course. The place is chock full of pawned articles, and my lads have thoroughly examined them all. So I gave the order. We have officers working around the clock in shifts so we can get through it all. And consequently, there's no way that you, Mr. Graydon, could have accessed this shop. Therefore, you should have known nothing about the people in the storeroom door. So the fact that its existence forms the basis of your testimony is completely inexplicable.
Objection!
And yet, the fact remains that Mr. Graydon did maintain that he witnessed the crime take place through the people in the door. How on earth is that possible? Could I have a word, please, Lord Van Zeeks? Speak, Inspector. It's just that I might ought to be getting back to the station now to put in my report. There's really nothing more that I can add to this testimony. So it's all the same to you. Remission denied. Oh. It's not all the same to me, Inspector. Not at all. You will remain exactly where you are until this trial concludes. Probably because he gave out information. Of course, sir. Mr. Graydon. You should have known about the existence of that peephole. Which can only mean that you must have been informed about it by somebody else. Ugh.
Objection!
Stop there, my learned friend. You realize, I trust, that the words you just uttered have extremely serious implications. Yes. The defense believes that the details of the case that Mr. Graydon claims to have seen must have been revealed to him by a certain person before his testimony. And, in fact, considering a particular clue we have, there's really only one person that could be. Gregson! Who is the person in question? Counsel. Who gave this witness details of the crime scene and facilitate his false testimony? Gregson.
Take that!
Truth is, it can only have been you, Inspector Gregson. Eh? Me?
Objection!
You had better have some proof to such a rash claim, my learned friend. I've only been aware of Mr. Ashley Graydon's identity for the last few hours. I learned of it only during the course of the trial today. Indeed, preparations for his testimony were made with great urgency during our hour-long recess. While the police executed the summing up, brought the man here from the communication station. Until that time, Mr. Graydon would have no idea. No inkling that he would suddenly be required to appear in court. Are you suggesting that until such time that he was summoned? Yes, my lord. Until then, it's reasonable to assume he knew nothing of the people. It was only once Mr. Graydon was in the stand that he realized his position, and he would have to defend himself against the accusation that he was the third intruder. You're suggesting to the court that it was while this trial was in progress that he received the information? So that he could commit perjury in order to save his skin? Exactly. And the only person with knowledge of the investigation that he had contact with is you, Inspector Gregson. This is a bloomin' outrage. Why would I be giving away details of our investigation to this fella, eh? I was summoned to his lordship's chambers during the recess in any case. Had you forgotten that? Quite true. I had a number of questions regarding the events that transpired at the pawnbrokery. Which means... the first time these two laid eyes on one another was after proceedings resumed following the recess. Since then, they've been in full view in the stand, where such illicit discussions couldn't possibly have occurred. Wrong. Oh, I've just remembered something, Bruno. What is Iris? There was one time before, wasn't there? I think it was when Ginny was testifying. Oh yes, now that you mention it. When the bailiff was dispatched to retrieve Gilda's music box from the scene of the crime. That's it. It was during that testimony. I remember finding it strange at the time. Mr. Graydon and the inspector seemed to be having some kind of secret discussion. It would have been possible for you to give Mr. Graydon the information he needed then. You little toe rag, you're making all this up. I'm a respectable Scotland Yard inspector for crying out loud. Why would I do something like that? Why'd I be giving away confidential details to the likes of this bloke? Admittedly, you wouldn't have had any reason to do something like that for no gain. But perhaps it was part of a deal of some kind. And it starts to make more sense. What deal, Counsel? I wonder perhaps in exchange for details about the people at the crime scene, Mr. Graydon to give to certain something to the Inspector. I'm sure I need not to remind the Inspector that, if found to be true, striking a deal of any kind with a witness would be considered a gross case of malfeasance. Whatever. Well,
Objection!
It's becoming clear that jumping in with accusation is these students' specialty. I don't do that. But with the stakes so high, the prosecution is not prepared to listen to the baseless charges. It's incumbent on the defense now to present evidence in support of this diabolical claim. Evidence? Just what are you proposing that the inspector demanded of the witness in return? The court must see proof of this alleged deal. Inspector Gregson really did strike a deal with Mr. Graydon. And logically, there's only one thing he could have asked for. That must be it. Bruno, do you think it could be... Yes. Get the missing link that would just join all the dots together in this puzzle. I must press you for an answer now, Counsel. What evidence to explain the nature of the alleged deal? Well, obviously... the disc.
Take that!
Inspector Gregson, besides this murder, is it not true that you've been working on another very important case? What are you getting at now, Sunshine? Is it possible that this other top-secret case is what's alluded to this newspaper article here? Classified secrets being leaked overseas from the Ministry of Defense. How the bleeding Nora could you... We discovered during the course of this trial the music box deposited at Windymakes by Magnus McGilded. A special music box designed to play 2 discs at once. It would seem very likely now that encoded on the pair of discs that were in McGilded's possession are the leaked classified secrets. So I put it to you, Inspector, that in order to recover the second of the discs containing those secrets, you currently made a deal with Mr. Graydon in which you exchanged the discs for details of the case. You little... Ah! On the day of the incident, when we met you at Windybanks, you said this. I'll be taking whatever it is McGilded's down to the yard, thank you very much. So hand it over. No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine. I'm sorry, miss. Anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. Something you already knew that at the time, isn't that right? That Magnus McGilded was involved in that stealing of the government's secrets. My orders were, recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry. And do that on the QT, strictly hush-hush. And that explains why, when I presented this disc as evidence to the courts, you objected so heavily, I presume. Because you knew that it contained highly confidential information. Blimey, not likely. I mean, I wasn't sure of it myself. I realized there was a possibility, that's all. Inspector, surely you're not saying that in order to acquire the second of these music box discs, you did indeed reveal confidential details of the crime seen to the witness, to aid and abet this man in giving false testimony. There's no other way that Mr. Graydon could have known the existence of the peephole. It's the only explanation. A deal was struck between these two men. Gotcha.
Objection.
If, and I stress if, this sovereign assertion turns out to be founded in truth, it would mean that the second disc is, as we speak, here in this very courtroom. Wait, what? In this room? Would you possibly make a claim like that? Because Inspector Gregson is a Scotland Yard detective. What? What's that supposed to mean, eh? As a seasoned policeman, the inspector will have approached the alleged deal with caution. Certainly he would not have accepted a gentleman's agreement in this matter. No, he would insist on having the article agreed upon in the palm of his hand. Good gracious, then you mean to say... Inspector Gregson already has the item in question in his possession? He has the second disc actually on his person?
Yes.
Defense for demands that the inspector is searched at once. Definitely. They can only have struck a deal with each other when Ginny was testifying before. Gracie hasn't moved from the witness stand once. My lord, please, order an examination of his personal effects immediately. Well, Inspector? This young lad wants to tone down his imagination. He's told to be, in my profession, quite enough. Unless it was given to someone else. However, it'll put this matter to bed and dispel any doubts about my involvement. Then I'll happily submit to a body search. What? He's going to agree to it? I presume you're aware of the prison of which you now tether, my learned student friend. You mean a serious allegation against Scotland Yard here? Following the search of the inspector's personal effects, no disc is found. You will be deemed unfit for court service. This trial will end. And my country's government will formally demand of yours that you are servilely reprimanded. Sounds serious. Indeed, to have a visiting student make such defamatory remarks about our country's most senior police force is not something Her Majesty's government will be able to overlook. You're just threatening Runo because you're scared. The accusation is beyond serious. You must be prepared for grave consequences. It's true. Can't imagine Gregson would have accepted a gentleman's agreement for something so critical. The disc must have physically changed hands, which means the inspector should have it. But somehow, something doesn't feel quite right here. Very well, Counsel. You know the implications, so let me ask you one final time. Yes, my lord. Do you still persist in formally requesting a search of an inspector's personal effects? Let's search someone else. Yes, the defense formally demands the search to be conducted. Well, don't say you weren't warned. But your typical Nipponese stubbornness may well land you in a hot water this time. Perhaps the lesson will do you some good. Fair enough. I've got nothing to hide. Very well then. Bailiff? Gotta search it. Wait.
Objection.
That isn't what I said. The defense demands a search, but not on Inspector Gretson. What? Now what's all this? I'm the one you're accusing, aren't I? Thought you wanted to search me. No, Inspector, not you. Somebody else. What's the meaning of all this, eh? Lost it at last, have you, sunshine? Court shouldn't have put you up with this nonsense. You're being completely irrational. Be quiet, all of you. Runo is doing what all you told him to do and having the courage of his convictions. So you should respect and listen to what he has to say in good faith. Because that's the British way. Well said, young lady. Indeed, this court is in awe of the defense counsel's conviction and eagerly awaits his next words. You what? Now don't be hasty, my lord. If I'm not mistaken about the things I've seen in court today, I'm fairly sure I know who has that disc at the moment. There's only one person. Excuse me. It can be. And I think that person is Nash Skulkin.
Take that!
Of my lord, Mr. Nash Skulkin. Well, I never. Me? Him? Very well then, bailiff. Restrain the witness and conduct a thorough search of his personal effects. Please, my lord. Inspector? Scotland Yard, has to object to the search.
Objection!
Oh boy. Oh boy, man. Forth from you, Inspector. Your objections carry no weight here. Eh? In this courtroom, only the prosecution and defense have the authority to object. But Lord Van Zieks, I have no idea what forces are in play that might influence your actions. But personally, I have no intention of obstructing the course of this trial. Bailiff, carry out the search. Now hold on a moment. I don't know nothing. Nothing about no disc. Cut it out! Ah! Here, my lord. In the wizard's pocket. I found this. Good lord, that's... another music box disc. I don't know nothing about it. Nothing. That is the second music box disc left behind by Magnus the Gilded. Is it not, Inspector Gregson? Ugh. Ah! Mr. Skulkin, what have you to say for yourself? Gordon Bennett, I mean, just... Gordon Flamin' Bennett. I swear I didn't know nothing about that disc, honest to God. Counsel, would you please explain what exactly is going on here? The alleged deal that was struck was between this witness and this detective, no? Without question, my lord. And for pity's sake. Why on earth was this man in possession of the disc that the inspector traded for information? Inspector Gregson is a shrewd, calculating man who rarely loses his composure. But at one particular point in this trial, he exhibited some unusual behavior for a brief moment. I don't recall. What unusual behavior? It was, yes, during my cross-examination of Mr. Graydon. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbroker that night, was it by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket? I admit to nothing of the sort. While Graydon answered my questions, the inspector appeared to have grabbed Nash Shulkin by his coat and was shaking him violently. Yeah, he did that and all. I mean, Naga was gonna fall off, clean off, I did. I was wishing I'd been born as my brother I was. What exactly happened to make the detective attack you like that? I ain't got a clue. He just suddenly turned and grabbed me whistle and then started shaking me. Why the blaze didn't you mention the third gun when he got down the station? That's what he said. He had it right down my ear hole, he did. My head's still throbbing now. The way detective behaved then was extremely out of character. But looking back now, it must have been that he did it. That was the opportunity Inspector Gregson created for himself in order to hide the disc. Well, bless my wig, he did it. You. I'm afraid I fail to comprehend the motive here. The detective had acquired the disc he was after. Why on earth would he have proceed to hide it in another man's pocket? It's a court of law. He could have submitted the item as evidence. It would appear that, my lord, that the inspector was not at liberty to do that. Why ever not? As the man himself relieved earlier, his current assignment has some special conditions. My orders were: recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT. Strictly hush-hush. Hush-hush? Top secret assignment, is it? As far as we're aware, information stolen comes from confidential government communications. It would seem that if the information were to be revealed in court as evidence, it would be problematic. Does that sum up the situation, Inspector? I'm operating under direct orders from the Ministry. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to answer that question. So, realizing there was a chance that you may be searched here in the courts, he took steps to hide the disc got acquired from the witness. What does this mean? He only pretended to attack Mr. Shogun in order to get close enough to him to slip the second disc into his pocket. This was all a pretense? Well now, Inspector Gregson, and you, Mr. Graydon. Are you prepared to admit to the accusation made against you of this alleged deal? Admit to it? Yours truly, please. Mr. Graydon. Clearly our Eastern visitor has an uncommonly active imagination. However, there's no proof that I passed that disc to the inspector.
Objection.
But then, how do you explain the reason why you knew about the peephole? I'm under no obligation to explain. What? Yes, I lied in my testimony. That I admit, so sentence me accordingly. But that is all I admit. Murder, leaking government secrets, striking a deal with a detective. All over this younger Eastern man's fancy. I have no idea what any of that is about. You... What? Well, what about you then, Inspector Gregson? You need to make a deal with Mr. Graydon in order to acquire the disc. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as Scotland Yard Inspector, I will declare this and nothing more. I am acting in the best interest of the country. Whatever I've done, I've been in the name of justice. So, as members of the public of the fine country, I'd like to think that justice will be your guiding light when you're making decisions. It's quite a quandary indeed. Rarely have I encountered such extraordinary tumultuous in the concluding of a trial. Nevertheless, in absence of any further evidence is presented, I believe it's time that we put the matter to the jury for their final leadings. Well now, as a fellow servant of Queen and country, I must say I sympathize with the old inspector. Yes, he's a dependable man, I'm quite sure. In service, one becomes a good judge of character. Even crossing your eyes doesn't help when it comes to looking at this case. It's all blurred to me. Well, as a fellow professional, I'd like to put my faith in the detective, really. Greatest highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop. Detective has very much trust in eyes. Much than this I cannot say. Won't believe it. These sure as are. They're going to believe Gregson. They declare their decision now. She didn't want to be found guilty? Won't manage to produce some decisive evidence right now, then we're going to lose. Either some proof that Graydon killed Mr. Winnymake or stole those government secrets. Or some evidence to force Gregson into admitting that he struck a deal with the witness. Well then, counsel, I think it's time we impose on the jurors to declare their final decisions, no? That is, I think you have some compelling evidence that you have thus far not presented to the court. If the judge call on the jurors to announce their leanings, you won't be found guilty. There's no choice then, Runo. You have to throw some more evidence at them. This is it now. It all comes down to this. Who do I present evidence against, Gregson or Graydon? Graydon. Mr. Graydon, there is one final piece of evidence I would like you to see. You misguided fool. Whatever you intend to show me now, you'd be wasting your time. I have nothing left to lose. I assure you, I will admit to nothing. It's my last chance. Looks like I'm going to have to force his hand here. One final piece of evidence to get him to admit the deal he clearly struck on his hand. This is the end. This is the end. Well. Here we go.
Take that!
Is that Mr. McGilded's Peculiar Music Box Council? Yes, with the disc already in place, ready to play. I think perhaps now would be a good time to listen to the sound produced by the music box again. Only this time, with the second disc we just discovered in the place as well. Goodness, this disc council? No, wait, I can't let you do that. Why not? Because, well, because it's not doing nothing with this case, that's why.
Objection!
Not true, Inspector. Eh? Defense is already proposed. The sounds heard by the court earlier from this music box were part of a Morse code message. Know that Morse code comprises of 2 distinct tones. Defense believes that the second disc contains the second tone needed to complete the message. And now we have a chance to confirm that theory. We're crying out loud, Sunshine. We're talking about state secrets here. If you go lend the whole courtroom confidential confirmation like that, it's treason. Then you do admit the charge. And in order to protect those state secrets, you engage in lawful dealings with the witness. You're mad. If you let that secret information out in the public domain, you'll be making an enemy of the entire British government, you idiot.
Objection!
Let's not forget, Inspector, that you, Scotland Yard of officer, leaked confidential case details to a witness. That you tried to continue the lie to the court, and all because by fair means or foul, you're determined to do your duty. Well, by fair means or foul, I'm prepared to do mine. Don't you dare. I will stop at nothing to protect my client. I don't care who I make an enemy of. My lord, if you please. Weren't must hear the sounds made by the music box. Come on, Vances, for peace sake. Stop him.
Objection!
Inspector, you should know my methods by now. I'm a prosecutor. I'm no Scotland Yard puppet. Urgh. In this courtroom, my duty is still a law. So let me propose a toast. To uncovering the truth. By my fair means, or foul. Very well, the defense's stance here, and that of the prosecution has been made very clear, I feel. Therefore, in accordance with the defense's request, the court will now listen to the music box set in operation once more. This time, with the second disc in place, and both discs playing simultaneously. Got him. Oh, listen to that. It's unmistakable now. It's Morse code. Alright, I admit it. Whatever you want. But for the love of God, shut that bloomin' box up. Let me ask you again then, Inspector Gregson. Did you or did you not strike a deal with the witness next to you in the stand, Mr. Ashley Graydon? Specifically, did you furnish the witness with a confidential case in exchange for the Music Box disc? Did you reveal the existence of the peephole in the pawnbroker's storerooms, Inspector? I did. Stop! What are you doing, man? Is it all exactly like the young Eastern lawyer said? When the trial resumed after recess and we were stood there in the stand together, that's when he approached me with a deal. Shut up, you imbecile! Shut up! Psst, you there. You're the detective who turned up at the pawnbroker the other day, aren't you? I may have something you're looking for, Inspector, with me at this very moment. So how about a trade? Suggest you accept. Or information that may make certain individuals uncomfortable will soon become very public indeed. I couldn't let that information become public knowledge, not under any circumstances. So I accepted the man's proposal and told him details about the case that should have put him in the clear. The peephole in the storeroom door, and the bloodstains on the right overcoat. By giving false testimony, this witness intended to have the defendant wrongly accused of murder. Inspector, you knew that. Yet you still revealed these details to facilitate witness perjury. I did. But then it turned out the peephole had only been made that night, after the incident took place. Scotland Yard wasn't aware of that, if I'm perfectly honest. Well, Mr. Graydon, what do you have to say for yourself? There's nothing and no one left for you to hide behind. You struck a deal with the inspector in order to escape conviction of a very serious crime. Namely this. You are the third intruder who broke into the pawnbroker in the night in question. And you perpetrated the murder of the proprietor, Mr. Pop Windybank. You. Oh, here's the breakdown. Traitor! Ah! Oh, shit. Jeez! Bailiff, restrain that man. At once. Jeez! Dude! That's it then. It's all over. I despised my life growing up. Those slums are vile places. I was cursed from birth, born into poverty, the son of a penniless artisan. My parents did nothing but quarrel all day long. What little money they had was never spent on me. So I set about studying to better myself, to one day escape from that hellhole. And you eventually became a communications officer. I admire your determination. When you decided to sell government secrets? Why? Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted money. And even now, years later, nightmares of my life in the slums wake me in the small hours. I wanted to drown them out, with more money than anyone would have lived in that squalor it could ever imagine. Then one day, I met him. Mr. Magnus McGilded. You're a fiend with queer talent, so you are. I've money to throw your way if you're interested. All you need to do is go along with me little plan for now. That frickin' little bitch. I was to steal the Ministry's telegraphic message logs, and McGilded would buy them for a handsome sum. As I was responsible for inspections of the Ministry's communication office, it was a simple enough task. The lure of the devil's offerings. How easy it is to succumb. But you must have surely realized the seriousness of the crime you were committing. And for that reason, I took great lengths to ensure that my actions were untraceable. By using the music box. My father was a brickmaker, though my mother divorced him when I was still a child. Yes, Mr. Mason Milverton. That's right. He was very skilled with his hands. He'd once been a music box maker's apprentice. I imagined his skills would be sufficient to create a machine that could generate Morse code. So I sought out my father again, to employ his services. It was the first time I'd seen him since I left the slums 10 years earlier. Look at you, Ashley. What a fine gent you become, eh? He was a different man to the one in my memory. A thin, frail old man. But poverty had never broken him. Never corrupted him like it had me. I was sure that he wouldn't help me if I told him the real reason. So I made up a story. I got work for you, Father. I need some music box discs made. Music box discs, eh? A musician friend of mine has written some music he wants to sell to the public. I brought the score with me. There are two, actually. I'd be delighted, son. It's been 20 years since I did any work like this, though. Fetch my tools, would you? They're in the loft. That's how I had him make the two discs. Thereby splitting the information in two. You were taking considerable precautions indeed. Just protect myself as much as anything. It meant that I could deal with McGilded in two separate transactions. The first involved the first of the two discs in the music box for playing them. I exchanged them with McGilded for 10 guineas. Then on the receipt of the second disc, he would pay 1,000 guineas. So, what happened on the omnibus 2 months ago was the second part of the deal? The exchange of the second disc? Yes. I'd sold the man information the way a number of times already. But it seems to become reluctant to part with his money. Doesn't quite make sense, Mr. Graydon. Or why was it on the omnibus 2 months ago? Your father, Mr. Milverton, was the one dealing with Mr. McGilded and not yourself? When I received the 1,000 guineas after my first complete dealings with McGilded, I decided to give 200 to my father for his troubles. But my father realized something was amiss. In time, he worked out that I must be involved in something dubious, and when he did, he said to me, "Next time there's an exchange, you let your old man do it, understand? Otherwise, I won't take your money anymore." And that's when he was killed. That was my father's way of dealing with it, I suppose. Climb into the omnibus and hand over the second disc, and take the money from McGilded. That's it. He had no idea what was actually on the disc I asked him to make. He never knew. Just like I'll never know why everything went so horribly wrong that night. All I know is that the disc was taken from him, and he never returned home. It was only then that I found out what sort of a monster McGilded really was. So after 10 years of not once uttering it, I swore in my father's name. To exact revenge. Revenge? As anyone with even the remotest knowledge of the man will no doubt be able to imagine. McGilded brought all his wealth and influence to bear in the most despicable of ways. To crush any semblance of justice in his trial. The crime scene was tampered with, evidence was fixed, and witnesses were bribed. That trial 2 months ago was a farce from start to finish. Fina barely touched British soil back then. I walked in that hornet's nest completely unaware of the sinister background to it all. I'd made plenty of money out of my dealings with McGilded by then, so I spared nothing in my arrangements 2 months ago. I knew exactly who to hire. If you're willing to pay the price, there are people in this city willing to do anything you ask. McGilded himself had shown me that. Are you saying that? I think you have the picture now. After he twisted everything in his favor in this courtroom to ensure that he walked free, I took matters into my own hands and delivered the justice that monster deserved. You burned him in the omnibus. That tragic accident following the trial here 2 months ago was planned and executed by yours truly. McGilded's death that day was caused by this man? Everything is ready, sir. If you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. What's this, officer? This sooner than I was led to believe. I hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. This time for the inspection. We're going to examine the omnibus again. That's what I'm told. I said it could be a present for myself. So that policeman who came to tell McGilded he could examine the omnibus again? It was you. That's right. An imposter hired by me. McGilded uses wealth to manipulate the trial. He paid people to adulterate the omnibus with all manner of false evidence. He threatened witnesses to lie in their testimony. So I gave the man a taste of his own medicine. Once the omnibus was doused in paraffin, one of my sham policemen ushered McGilded inside and sent him on a one-night journey to hell. An eye for an eye. That's how I avenged my father's death. Spine-chilling account indeed. But that wasn't the end of it for me. There was a loose end, you see. Loose end? Yes. I should think it's obvious. The second disc, which my father had taken to exchange with McGilded. Ah, yes. There is indeed no mention of it in the man's trial 2 months ago. Clearly because it's been removed from the scene of the crime. When I realized it was missing, I remembered something. Something from the first time I dealt with McGilded. This is the first of 2 discs. In the music box you need to play them. Well, look at that now. What an ingenious little invention. So then, as promised. 10 guineas for you, young man. What's this? Winnipeg's pawnbrokery? Aye. 'Tis a pawnbroker's ticket, so it is. You can use it to redeem an article I deposit there for you. There's no need to give a name. Just hand over the ticket and tell the fiend the watchword. Put a jewel in the pawn for you. I'll fetch a good 10 guineas if you sell it, so it will. Never heard of a pawnbroker being used in quite that way before. Have you not, Mr. Graydon? London's pawnbrokeries are very useful places, you know. Each one is like an extremely secure vault. So I knew that if he had taken steps to hide the disc, it would be that pawnbrokery somewhere. And that on the night he killed my father, he must have entrusted the ticket to someone. Yes, to Gina. I remember now that when we first met you at Windy Makes that afternoon 2 days ago, you had a description of Mr. Strahd written down. How did you know who you were looking for? From the trial, that pickpocket's testimony was clearly peculiar. Anyone could see that. I realized immediately that she was another of McGilded's pawns, that he must have threatened her somehow. I was fairly convinced it would be her who had the ticket. So I started to make some inquiries. I had a strong suspicion the girl who'd come out of the woodwork on the redemption deadline. He was absolutely right. And yes, sure enough, she did. All I needed to do was wait until the girl went to the Windy Banks to redeem the articles. But unfortunately, she redeemed only McGilded's overcoat and the one disc that was in its pocket. The all-important music box was in the second disc inside was missing. Because it had already been forfeited 2 days earlier. But I was unaware of that fact. Had I not been, I could have avoided my nighttime excursion. Meanwhile, as our investigation into stolen government secrets was progressing, we picked up on the fact that McGill was involved. Inspector, you've recovered fast. My orders were to recover the stolen information as quickly as possible. We started gathering the fella's possessions and examining whatever we could lay our hands on. We had a full-scale investigation going on at the yard. We had to keep it as secret as we could, quiet as we could. Then, when the inspector here took the disc from me in the pawnbrokery that day, I became nervous. I was sure the meat box and the second disc were still in there in the shop somewhere. So I knew it was a race against time. I had to find those articles before the police did. So that's what's brought me to break into the place that same night. With the help of your old friends, the Skulkin brothers. What happened that night in the pawnbrokery, I can only describe as a nightmare. While Nash and Ringo were searching the counter, I'd located the music box I sold to McGilded on the shelves of forfeited articles. And the second disc was inside? Yes. I slipped it into my pocket with a very deep sigh of relief. But then, something entirely unexpected happened. What are you doing in my shop? Gunshot rang out in the shop, and I felt a sharp pain in my left arm. The broker fired his gun, and the bullet pierced her limb. Yes, exactly. Unfortunately, I decided to bring my own gun with me that night, just in case. Before I knew what was happening, I'd fired back. The man had already turned to flee. I didn't intend to fire in his direction, much less kill him. But unfortunately for both of us, the bullet hit home. It struck him in the middle of his back and he's fled through the storeroom door for refuge. A sorry, sorry tale. It all took place in the blink of an eye. I don't imagine Nash and Ringo even realized what had happened at first. I was terrified, so I fled. And that's the whole story. That's everything that's happened at Winnie Banks on that wretched night. Surprised he was so willing to tell all that, to be honest. He seemed like he was very hell-bent on, like, keeping that secret. But I guess Once you're caught, what else can you do? Earlier, you called McGilden a monster. A man who uses wealth and influence to distort the facts and escape justice for the crime of murder. What tragic irony. For what you have done is exactly the same. You become the very monster you saw and despised so deeply in McGilded. Yes, I think I have. At least he realizes that. Well, this has been a long and exhausting trial. Yeah, we've been going at this for like 7 hours. However, it would have seemed that at last we have arrived at the truth. Inspector Gregson, what of Mr. Ashley Graydon? He's been restrained, my lord, and is being escorted to the yard. He'll be charged with the murder of Mr. Winniebank and the stealing of government secrets. Very good. And you, Inspector. Regrettably, you will have to face charges yourself. Yes, my lord. Of course. Spires that you were complicit in helping a criminal escape justice. That fact remains whether or not you were doing so in the line of duty. The crime is a serious one, Inspector, and inexcusable. Now to the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. Yeah? It is time for the final adjudication. Is the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Yes, sir. Garrett Squadron standing by, sir. This is really it now. The last push. The final call. The finishing whistle. My men are ready to deliver their verdicts. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Very well. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now declare your final decisions to the court.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
That's it. Ha ha ha! That's the stuff. I'm off the hook. Finally, Runo, you managed to do it. Finally is the word. I really wasn't sure if we'd come out on top for a while there. Susie was right. You're the best lawyer in the world. Miss Lestrade, I am not finished with you yet. Eh? What are you looking at me like that for? Or you start enjoying your freedom, there are certain other crimes to consider, Eh? 2 months ago in my courtroom, no less, you gave false testimony, did you not? And in relation to the trial today, not only did you unlawfully enter Winniebank's pawnbrokery, you also attempted abscond with Mr. McGilda's property, it seems. Eh? I never done nothing of the sort. Of course not. It's not like you were gleefully wearing Mr. McGilda's coats in your cell yesterday or anything. Aw, just when I was getting excited about throwing a party for Ginny this evening. Turning our attention to the defense. Determining that, when played together, the music box disclaimed a message in Morse code was... Well, it was certainly a most unexpected revelation, Counsel. Quite so, my lord. The prosecution was caught entirely off guard. In fact, I think we should applaud my learned friend's courage here today. I propose a toast. To demanding that government secrets be disseminated before the entire courtroom. Ah! Very sorry about that. It was the only way that I could get Inspector Gregson to admit to what he'd done, so... If I may something on that point. Isn't that... It's, about the sounds produced by the music box before. I do wonder, if that really was Morse code at all. What? What are you saying, madam? Oh, well, it's just that I'm really rather fanatical when it comes to Morse code, you see. So much so that the whole world seems to be covered in dots and dashes to me, in fact. Goodness, madam. An unhealthy level of obsession one feels. But I must say that in my opinion, the sounds produced by those two discs were nothing more than that. A meaningless series of two different tones. What? Can that really be? It wasn't Morse code after all? Wild. It was... Whoops! My lord, Defense would like to listen to the music box again. God. Are you off your nut? How many times do I have to tell you? Those discs contain ministerial secrets, sunshine. Scorpion is not appropriate for to discuss the nature of the government communications. We know McGilda conspired to trade national secrets with our enemies. Secrets acquired from Mr. Graydon. Now the man has admitted to his crimes, we have no need to pursue the matter further. But it's really going to bother me. Miss Lestrade? Yeah, me lord? That what you've seen today here in this courtroom has been extremely disturbing. Falsified evidence, intimidation, perjury, a grim catalog of depravity. An appalling experience to befall any child. Come on, it ain't nothing I don't see most days in the back slums. I beg your pardon. If you're weak, you pay for it. That's how life goes. Gina. But look, I reckon I worked something out today. The world ain't fair. Do you want it to change? You gotta start at home. You gotta change how you are yourself. Well, that's a very laudable lesson, I would say. I really look forward to born-again Mr. Strahd never gracing my courtroom with her presence again. Now, with regard to the murder of Mr. Pop Windybank, proprietor of a pawnbroker business on Baker Street, I hereby declare the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, not guilty. Ayy! Man, what a long-ass frickin' trial. She put a frickin' firework in there. Wild. That is all. Court is adjourned. Well, that's the last case of the first game in this collection. On a personal note, I must say you surprise me, my Far Eastern friend. Oh. Despite being a Nipponese, you saw through the pretense to the malice that festered within that Englishman. And at the same time, saw through the grime to the surprising heart of your English client. You have a curious talent for judging character, especially considered our very different cultures. That's quite a profound statement coming from you. I don't think there's anything curious about it. Whether we're from the Empire of Great Britain or the Empire of Japan, we're all human beings. We're not so very different on the inside. You know, I took this case for one very simple reason. To lock swords with you once again in here in the courtroom. You did? When I encountered you for the first time 2 months ago, it reminded me of toasting friendship and trust with another Nipponese, only to find my trust betrayed. Through you, I hope to look into the eyes of the man I once knew and try to understand. You mentioned something similar earlier today, about total betrayal at the hands of the Japanese. Why is that? What happened exactly? Well, you may ask. And one day, when the time comes, you will learn the answer, whether you like it or not. Alright, then I'll wait for that day if I must. Coming to be known as the Reaper of the Bailey, in my retirement from service 5 years ago. It gives me cause to wonder if our meeting has some deeper purpose. So, farewell, my learned Nipponese fellow, until we meet again. God. These two aren't that much different, are they? One's just more strict, a lot more Edgeworth-like. Alright. It's done. It's over at last. But where's Iris disappeared to? Ah. Congratulations, Gina. I knew it all along. I knew that you were innocent. Well, you did what you said, Mr. Odo. You believed in me, right up to the end. You're as odd as your name. What's odd about it? I told you I had faith in you, didn't I? No one ever has before, you see. Kept a promise, I mean, properly. That's awful. I figured something out today. All me life, growing up the slums, I never trusted no one. But that's just because I've been scared of being stabbed in the back. I mean, the more you trust someone, the more it hurts when they let you drown. Let you down. Yes, I think I understand that. After all, I had a taste of it in the trial 2 months ago. Chose to trust someone and paid for it. The betrayal left a big scar. You know, though, Gina, I worked something out quite recently too. Trusting someone else is really an exercise in learning to trust yourself. When your gut tells you it's the right thing to do, and your trust is rewarded, there's no better feeling in the world. I think I have you to thank for reminding me of that valuable lesson. Well, if you say so. Don't make it fat a lot of sense to me, though. I'm trying to say that putting my faith in you, Gina, has been a real pleasure. For crying out loud, pack it in. But I suppose I sort of feel the same way. I mean, sometimes trusting someone else's, you know, alright. Thanks. This is the way I see it, Rinosuke. A defense lawyer is only as good as his faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself. After this experience, I'm starting to feel like I understand what you mean. Kazuma. Am I living up to your expectations? Am I turning out to be the lawyer you believed I could be? Pardon the interruption. Huh? But what the deuce does a man have to do to be noticed around here, my dear fellow? He's in the freaking outfit again. Oh, that voice. It's too late for that voice now, Mr. Naruhodo. I've been standing here patiently in the corner of the room for an eternity. Ah ha ha! Yes, it was me all along. I would have said it when finally you noticed me. But you people, with your incessant babbling. Mr. Sholmes. Ah ha ha! Yes, it was me all along, you see. God, this man. This man? I'd assume you've been taken back to the hospital, to be honest. Indeed I was, but I managed to escape again. Oh. I happen to be aware of one or two foibles of the doctor who was tending to me. I merely made my knowledge of them known to man, and he happily issued me with a leave of absence. How very above board. But enough of my adventures. That was a fine victory, Mr. Naruhodo. Your tireless efforts justly rewarded, I feel. Congratulations are in order. As a close friend, I tip my hat at you. Oh, thank you. Some great detective you are. Great at being cold as ice, maybe. Have I irked you in some way, Miss Lestrade? Well, you were having a nice snooze in your nice soft bed. Some of us have been fighting for our lives. Well, that bullet did cause me to lose a substantial amount of blood, it's true. So I've indeed been feeling somewhat odd. Not perhaps as cold as ice, but well... Have a feel. How could you take your hands off my neck, please, Mr. Sholmes? Sir! In some way, I suppose, congratulations are in order for you too, Miss Lestrade. What's that supposed to mean? Why are you so half-hearted? Well, naturally, it isn't my intention to alarm you, but... An acquittal in the trial with that particular prosecutor is perhaps a little precarious. Well... Oh, the Reaper, you mean? Because anyone who's found not guilty in the trial he was working on winds up dead anyway, is that it? The very point I was trying to make. And exemplified by the fate of Mr. Gilden, in fact. Ah, but of course I pay no attention to such irrational drivel as myself. Yeah, but we know why Magilda died. It wasn't because of the freaking Reaper. Well, it don't bother me. Oh, really? Of course not. The way I see it, the Reaper's a bit like him upstairs. Him upstairs? You mean like God? Yeah, him upstairs knows what's what, right? He knows what people are like on the inside. You would have got the wrong end of the stick. There's some co's like that bog trotter, but are rotten to the core. At the end of the day, him upstairs makes sure they get what they deserve. So that's one way of looking at it. Divine justice is one thing, though. The Reaper taking matters in his own hands and claims lies is another. Well, I ain't like the McGildas of the world, so I ain't scared. I got principles, see? A trait in which to be admired, Miss Lestrade. Oi, just give me a rest, alright? As I was saying, congratulations are in order. The news of her acquittal was very welcome news to me indeed. Let me express my heartfelt congratulations, Gina. Well, there you are, Hurley. How long have you been here? Honestly, I went to the main entrance especially to meet you there. Ah, Iris, my dear, I do apologize. But wait until I tell you what happened. This pair made utter fools of themselves. What happened? As you know, I have a penchant for disguise. I was hiding in this room dressed as a bailiff. But these dolts didn't notice my presence at all. Ah, ha, ha, ha. They had no idea. Can you imagine, Iris? Would you credit it? I'm not sure, really. Beg your pardon? I'm sorry, Hurley, but you just don't have the weighty presence you seem to think you have. In fact, you really ought to be careful about that. It's going to land you in trouble one day. I'll be careful. Ouch. Anyway, it's such a shame. I was someone to throw a party for Ginny tonight, but you won't be able to come, will you? Don't look like I'm gonna be going nowhere for a while. Here at the Justice Patter, I got stuff to make amends for, apparently. All them offenses. What was it again? Breaking and entering, taking the bog trotter's stuff, what? Blah blah blah. Yes, I think you'll find that basically being a pickpocket is the main offense. But diamond ain't an offense, it's a job, innit? I don't think so. Still, it has got me thinking all this. Maybe I should start looking for another line of work. I mean, you didn't start off as a lawyer, did you, Odo? Well, no, but I was never a pickpocket. Well, anyway, I reckon I could make a change. I'm gonna do something for all of them like me from the slums. Something that makes a difference for them. That's a wonderful idea, Ginny. I'm sure you can do it. What is it? Nothing. Miss Gina Lestrade. The prison carries as a ride, ma'am. Come with me to the rear gate at once. Right. Well, looks like I'm off then. Yes, goodbye, Gina. And good luck. Odo? Yes? Ma'am! 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 Ah! What was that for? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say, so... Ah, indeed. Perhaps the situation calls for a phrase hitherto missing from your vocabulary, Miss Lestrade. Eh? On occasions such as this, I would recommend a simple thank you. Oh. Oh, yes. It's good advice, Ginny. Right, I see. Well... Oh. Thaw. Thanks, Odo. Oh. Thank you for everything, what you've done. For believing in me. Cute. Cute. Not at all. In fact, that should be my line. Thank you, Gina. Freaking cute. Oh. Well, well, quite an indomitable pick purse. Oh, I nearly forgot. I brought a paper out. Bought a paper outside. It's a special edition. This trial is all over the front page. Because innocence proven. Isn't it wonderful? You should have shown it to Gina, Iris. She would have been thrilled. Oh no, how silly of me. But anyway, would you like the good news or the bad news? Ugh, not again. What do you want to say, Bruno? Hurley? As usual, I think I'd rather get the bad news out of the way first. Absolutely not. I have no intention of listening to anything but good news. And there you have it. How people answer that question says a lot about them, doesn't it? Let's not go there. Alright then, maybe let's start with the good news this time. The rain has finally stopped. It was a record level rainfall, apparently. Well, that is good news indeed. We journey back into greater comfort. Right then, what's the bad news? The huge storm has left the seas very choppy. The channel in particular is awful, so sailings out of Dover have been delayed by a day or more. Wait, Dover? That's right. If we had to the station immediately, we may still be able to time to wave Susie off. But there won't be a train, surely. We won't be that lucky. What do you think I am, Mr. Nodohodo? Mr. Sholmes? I rushed to Victoria Station earlier and made arrangements for a special express. If we hurry now, we shall be there in time for dinner. And I know of a fine restaurant that serves the most delicious baked sole. The great detective does it again. Indeed he does. I happen to be aware of a number of rail transport directors' foibles. What? I merely made knowledge of them known to the man, and he happily laid on the locomotive elementary. Just an idea, but might it be wise to stop militia people that way? What are we waiting for then? To London, Victoria. Wild. Ooh, pretty. Pretty. That took somewhat longer than I anticipated. Susie's boat must be about to leave now. Miss Susato, where are you? Oh, there she is. Over there, look, it looks like she's reading something.
Hold it!
Susato, wait, what are you doing? Mr. Naruhodo, what are you doing here? Came as soon as we could after the trial, I mean. We heard that the sailings were being delayed due to the bad weather, you see. Oh, I see. Then tell me, how did Gina's trial go? It went well, she was acquitted. That's wonderful. Really wonderful news. The book you were about to throw into the sea. It was your Encyclopedia of British Law, wasn't it? Oh dear, I was hoping you hadn't seen that. I'm not worthy of practicing law in any way now. So, I was saying my final farewell. You were saying goodbye to law? You? Susato-san? Would I be correct in assuming it's because of the peephole, Miss Susato? I mean, probably. She's probably very upset about that and why she did it, but It helped. It genuinely helped. I deliberately altered the scene of a crime, and then I tried to hide the fact. What I did is utterly unforgivable. That reminds me. How did you even come to have this, Susie? On the evening of the incident, Mr. Sholmes had invited Gina to dinner, if you remember. Oh yes, we had a wonderful time. Well, Gina gave us a little introductory lesson, didn't she? To the art of pickpocketing, I mean. Oh, that was so much fun. I stole Runo's armband. Yes, please don't do that again, Iris. That band's very important to me. Well, if it's so important, you should pay more attention to it. You didn't notice for ages. On a whim, I thought it would be fun to see if I could take the cat flap on it, so I put it up my sleeve. Really? Oh, excuse me. And then I rather forgot about it until I found myself in Mr. Windybank's shop with it later than that night. I see. And then... Ah! Mr. Sholmes! Mr. Sholmes! Leaving, Mr. Naruto. Right. After Mr. Naruto had left the shop, I started to think. That door started to play on my mind. Storeroom door, you mean? Yes, if Jeannie was anywhere in the shop, I realized it could have only been behind the door. And at that moment, the little device that I had up in my sleeve sprang to mind. I was so worried about Gina. Simply had to know. So you used the cat flap bat to make the people in the door? It's captured in the photographic print in the shop. By one of the Hurley's red-handed recorders. Indeed, it was one of the first important step points. Precisely when the people was made, the information would prove to be Mr. Naruto's greatest weapon. Though naturally, without proof, it would have amounted to nothing. But when I looked through the hole in the door, the sight that met my eyes made my blood run cold. Thoughts started to run through my mind. I remember that trial 2 months earlier. The trial of Magnus McGilded. I thought about how he had manipulated Emmett to arrange false testimony to secure his freedom. It made the British justice system feel very dark and sinister to me. And then, a terrible thought occurred to me. What if some wicked criminal was planning to do the same thing now? Because of the appearance of the crime scene, it looked exactly as though Gina had shot Mr. Windybank. Even though I was sure she would never have done such a thing. You were worried that the true culprit would try to frame her for the crime? That's right. But then I realized it would be very difficult for anyone to give false testimony in this case. What do you mean? Well, the crime appeared to have been behind the door of a locked room. For someone to claim falsely to have witnessed it, there would have been a way to see beyond the door. Ah. For which a peephole would be of the very thing. Only the people I had made wasn't actually there until after the crime had been committed, of course. And the criminal would know that, so it wouldn't make any difference. But the possibility of a rather ingenious trap was there, was it not? A trap? Is that why she did it? So is that why you kept it a secret, Susie? You never mentioned that you made the peephole to anyone, not even to the police. I know, and I know at the time that I was doing was wrong, a criminal offense even. So I decided to confide in Mr. Sholmes. Mr. Naruto was completely backed into the corner, with no other possible means of escape. Truth about the people could save him. That was my plan. She really does think of everything. But then, why didn't you just tell me everything before the trial began? My dear fellow, you're not thinking straight. If she had done that, it would have rendered you complicit in the whole escapade. Ah. You could have been disbarred if you had been seen to have knowingly tampered with the crime scene. So Mrs. Doe decided to shoulder the burden of responsibility alone. For your sake and Miss Lestrade's. Miss Susato. The truth is, when it happened, I did it because I lost a little of my faith in the law. Oh. I was worried that the right person wouldn't be convicted of the crime. But the moment I allowed myself to think that is the moment I lost my right to call myself a judicial assistant. What you did isn't comparable to what he did. Graydon is the one who lied in the witness stand using that people as a way to implicit Gina. And besides, if the people inconsistency hadn't existed, I'm not sure at all that she would have been acquitted in the end. Sister, what you did saved Gina's life. Well, with your kind words, Mr. Naruhodo, you saved me too from my regrets. Cute! Mm. Well, we must all be thankful that Mr. Strahd's freedom has been assured. Yes, exactly. Although some of the loose ends in the trial will continue to play on my mind, I'm sure. But the revelation that the music box disc contains secret messages, Mr. Naruhodo. What a triumph to work that out. I'm full of admiration. Well, actually, that argument wasn't quite as compelling as I thought it was. Oh, it wasn't? There was a communications officer among the jury members, you see, a telegraph operator. She said the majority of the sounds on the disc were just meaningless tones. As one would expect, after all, we were talking about a secret government in communications. So, no doubt they were written in a cipher to avoid being readily understood should they have been intercepted. A cipher? I see. Then we could never have hoped to understand the message anyway. Nonsense, my dear fellow. It's quite a zero-byte problem, I assure you. Sir. Ah. Asogi? What? Well, that can't be a real word, can it? No! Kazuma Asogi! Well, that can't be a real word, can it? How funny. Wait. Iris, what did you just say? Oh, I just said Asogi. Does that word mean anything to you? Mean anything? Asogi was the name of my best friend! What? But how? How did you know that name, Iris? I wrote it down during the trial before, and the message was playing on the music box. Translated on the fly? She really is a genius. Well, the message probably wanted to be written out in plain Morse code, so I tried various ways to interpret it. Whenever I tried, the words just didn't seem to make any sense. That is, in English at least. Oh. It suddenly occurred to me, you see. There's more than one Morse code, not just the English variety. Various countries around the world have it altered and added to Morse code to use it in their own languages. I don't believe it. Are you saying... That's right. I've only actually seen a chart of Japanese Morse code once before. But I think it's based on the Iroha pentagram, isn't it? You mean to say that in Japanese Morse code the message says Asogi? Yes, I think so. Sorry, but I don't remember all the Japanese Morse code. Iris, would you let me see that? Suzo, do you know it? Do you know Japanese Morse code? Yes, I spent some time studying it. Ma'am! Because I'm quite sure Morse code will become even more important for international communications. Then might I recommend, my dear Benin, that you focus your efforts on the English version. Be that as it may, Iris, show me the message, please. Of course. But what could this possibly mean? Whatever is in that long sequence of supposedly meaningless dots and dashes, it's made the color drain from Susuto-san's face. There's no doubt that this message is written in Japanese Morse code. So the British Empire has been using Japanese for its secret communications? I don't understand why, but the message appears to be a list of 4 people's names. 4 names? The first is Kei Asugi. Kazuma Asugi. Why? What was his name on the disc? The second is A. Shin. A. Shin. I don't recognize that name. Third is T. Wait. Wait. T. Gerugusun. Oh. It's... A. Shin. A. Shin. Okay. I think that means Ashley Graydon. Like, these are said in like the Japanese tongue. So that's why it sounds weird. T. Gerugu-san would be Tobias Gregson. Gregson? Ah, it would seem Tobias Gregson is the 3rd man on the list. And what's his name doing the secret government and communication as well? And the last name. What's the matter, Miss Susato? It's just so strange, so unexpected. Oh, what is it, Susie? Don't keep us in suspense. The last name is J. Wilson. John H. Wilson. What? Wilson? John H. Wilson? You mean Daddy? What does this mean? Do all 4 of these people have to do with some government communications secrets? It says only J. Wilson, so I'm afraid I can't be sure. And after the 4 names, it reads, if I translate for Japanese, that is all 4. And that's the end of the message, or rather, the end of what you noted down, Iris. She can't believe it. Who would ever thought that those discs contained Japanese Morse code? Not to mention a strange list of some disturbingly familiar names. It would appear that this particular message is a communication of some kind between Great Britain and the Empire of Japan. So Daddy could be in Japan then, where Susie and Bruno come from. Oh God! No. We know who he is. And we know he died there. Oh, well, No, it's not very likely, really, is it? I mean, there are 1,000 people with the surname Wilson. There must be a lot of J's among them. Professor John H. Wilson, visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. We can't tell Iris about that now, we just can't. So strange, somehow solving the case of Mr. Winniebake's murder today. I feel like I've rolled back a boulder at the mouth of a very dark cave. I do wonder. Perhaps it's a dark cave that we shouldn't go wandering inside. Honk. Oh dear, the ship is going to set sail soon. Yes, it seems so. I'll sail on that same ship first to the port of Dunkirk in France. And I'll change onto a large passenger vessel bound for Japan. You're really going then, Susie. We wish you safe passage, Miss Susato. Thank you so much. I wish you all the very best. Miss Susato, I had hoped to have you always at my side to guide me, support me. Mr. Naruto, please come back soon. As far as I'm concerned, you really are the very best judicial assistant in the world. I'm quite sure I'll be back before you know it. Really, Susie? Oh, now don't forget, Iris. I made you a promise I've yet to fulfill. A promise? About your manuscript. Ah. Oh yes, the Hound of Baskervilles. Well, I'll be waiting for you then. A promise is a promise. Definitely, Iris. Mr. Naruto? Yes? You remember the first time we met? Yes, of course. On the SS Borea when I was dragged out from that wardrobe, still half asleep. Remember rightly, you threw me halfway across the cabin with a Susato takedown. You know very well that I'm talking about after that. It's strange, but being thrown together, as we were in that case, I somehow felt straight away that you were the perfect person to continue Kazuma-sama's great legacy. Miss Susato. And my instincts are right. I really want to believe. No, I'm sure that. I'll be back soon. Farewell. Until then. Cute.
Somehow we seem to have come to the end of the adventures of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Or the first volume, at least.
The first volume.
Looking back now, it feels as though fate has led me on this journey. Fate led me to becoming a lawyer, to traveling halfway around the world, to meeting the great detective. I'm sure there'll be trials and tribulations ahead. Of course there will. But whatever happens, I know I'll be able to turn my fortunes around. After all, I have the greatest friends in the world on my side.
Woo! Oh. Ah, yes, Mr. Nodohodo. Yes, Mr. Sholmes? I have some rather awkward news. The railway company has decided to sue over the special express train, apparently. Huh? It caused such a commotion on the line. All the other trains had to wait at stations. But really, we would never have made it to Dover in time otherwise. Anyway, I explained everything, how it was all your fault. Thanks! Huh? Huh? I believe a formal complaint should be delivered to your office tomorrow. But not to worry, my dear fellow. We're in Miss Susato. You love defending yourself in court. Huh? It's alright, I'm perfectly happy to testify. He really didn't look like the sort of man to do something so outrageous. See? Mr. Sholmes. Yes? A word, if you don't mind? Why, certainly. Any word you like, bellow it out, my dear fellow. Oh, yes, I love Runo's words. I know just the one he'll use here. Then, I really must say.
Objection!
Nice. Shoo Takumi, baby! In the following weeks, hundreds of music boxes arrived at Baker Street. Something was afoot, though it transpired I had to order for them from all myself. So I advertised them for sale with, used by Mr. Sholmes to solve an important case. And the money I've earned? Consulting detective work pays a pittance by comparison. Good. I haven't slept a wink. This manuscript is due tomorrow now. My Missy Hurley usually cooks me breakfast. Well, cooks is an understatement. Rather than dry toast and in-spit coffee. I do miss and love you Japanese breakfasts. Witness, your testimony is riddled with contradictions. Exactly. Really do rare Kobans hide under rare stakes themselves. Oh, well, I don't know. Son knows his father's an innocent man. Are you calling my son a liar? Witnesses, my courtroom is in no place for your petty arguments. Well, I guess that trial happened after the first case. Having delivered the Russian dancer to shore in Shanghai, I laid low on the steamship for a while. But last night I apprehended extremely suspicious Japanese national on board. I've done nothing wrong. All I did was given Wang Hai's offspring refuge in my pocket. A man bring home kittens on the board and certainly he's hardly criminal. It's not fair. He brought kittens aboard. He brought kittens aboard. Scientific investigation will be the gold standard for policing in the new age. I dream of a world governed by the tenets of order and discipline. Like a great clock, in fact, whose hundreds of pairs mesh together in perfect unison. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have but 2 minutes and 37 seconds till my next appointment. God. The latest Rants magazine is out, and I'm in it again. Whenever I say that one line she wrote now, I get a standing ovation. Want to hear it? Not bad, I suppose. For an amateur. Ah, her ladyship puts me to shame. God damn it. This man. Been visiting the old girl on days basis, of course. Joni, my old jailbird. Must say, battling with these bally stairs every day has done wonders for the diggy peg. Managing rather well with the housework too. Not this maid business taped up, I'd say. Hoping the gossiping neighbors don't realize the man of the house is his own maid. Wild. My Rolly's back on the beat again. All thanks to the Reaper. There's nothing I enjoy more these days than hunting small chains in the gutter. I'm a bitter Bobby now, looking for the Londoners, their dropped pennies, and my lovely wife. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. You seriously need some sleep. Dude, get some sleep. Looks like I'm gonna be doing time for a bit now. But Iris comes every day for a natter, so it ain't too boring. She's always going on about all them cases what Sholmes is looking into. Criminal investigations are kind of interesting when you get into them. Wild. Yes, I renounce my upbringing and chose a life of sophisticated crime. But regrets? Please. Give over, bruv. That ain't the Ash we know. We got time to get a plan to come back of Milverton and Skulldin's milk run, right? The three Muska what's-its? Milking the neighborhood for all it's worth. These guys. They work together. This past 6 months have been a time I shall remember forevermore. Painful goodbyes and wonderful encounters. I've come to realize what life is all about. Naruto-san, I promise, your assistant will return to you one day. But for now, I leave you with many memories and a heartfelt wish that life will treat you well. Cute. Nice. Cute as heckin' fuck. Ugh. Wonderful. Genuinely wonderful. I'm glad that's not translated. And that was only the first game of the collection, so... we still got another game to go. But I can do that another time. Well, that was actually really good. I could definitely feel a lot of the, I could definitely feel a lot of the classics, the classic Ace Attorney stuff in this. Mainly because it was directed by Shu Takumi and, his team. Like, there's a lot of classic Ace Attorney behind this. It's just a little bit more modern and different setting. And yet it still works. I do have the Ace Attorney trilogy though, so I'll probably play that as well at one point. Because I just really love this series. It's like really good at just being very heartfelt and just knowing how to show that you can stick up for people. I can tell this walk cycle was freaking motion captured. But it's fine. I know this game was originally made for the 3DS. This is just the HD re-release. It's honestly actually nice to see the models in their full glory, though. Because you don't really get to see, like, below their torso. Not really. So it's cool to see that they actually fully modeled these people. Granted, you can still see them sometimes from certain angles, but you very, very rarely get to see their full models. Like, in the original series, with like when it was just like 2D art and sprites, they pretty much only made the art up to their torso line, and that's about it. Because they didn't really need to make much more than that. They could just manipulate the camera to show what they wanted, you know? But here, that kind of changed a little bit. Like, there's still, like, some of the, like, series conventions where they still show them mostly up from torso height and not much more. But that doesn't really matter. There's still a lot of work done with all this, and that I can appreciate. Granted, well, because of a certain crossover with a professor, yeah, the crossover with Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton, a lot of things changed with the Ace Attorney series. I wouldn't necessarily say it's for the worse. Not really. I would never say it's for the worse. Because I still really enjoyed what came out after the crossover. Like, especially with the fact that, like, this game in particular brought a lot of the crossover mechanics back. Cute. Like the jury system, the multiple witnesses, stuff like that. Those were all brought back for this specific game. And I'm sure it's gonna be like something similar with the second game. So it is very nice to see that, that's a really nice picture, actually. It's really nice to see that they brought those mechanics back, even if it was just for, like, one specific game. But, yeah. That's it for that game. We got this whole second game to look forward to here, which I'll probably come back to next week. But otherwise, I've done this one. Oh, I see. This was released in 2015 originally in Japan. Because I remember for the longest time, we weren't sure if this would have been translated at all or brought to the brought to Western audiences or whatever for like the longest time. But I think around 2019, was it? 2019, 2020, around that area, they just suddenly announced that these games would be suddenly localized, which I'm glad they did. I'm really glad they did, because I enjoyed this first game a lot. And I'm excited to play the second one pretty soon, relatively. And I hear the second game's even better, at least from what I heard, anyway. Thanks y'all for coming by out today. It's been a long ass stream. I did not know it was gonna take like freaking 8 hours, but hey, here we are. Whatever. I'm gonna take a real good rest after this. So next stream is gonna be Wednesday, which is gonna be Hangout or whatever. But yeah, thanks y'all for coming by out today. Sorry that it took so long, but hey, it's whatever, you know. I'll see y'all later for Wednesday. And hope you take care and rest up, really, because geez, I've been going at this for a long time. But hey, I did it. So yeah, I'll see y'all later. Take care. I'll see y'all later. Take care.